had been declared persona non grata, and a second had been asked not to return from vacation. Russia's Interfax news agency then reported that 2 Czech diplomats had been told to leave Moscow. An unnamed foreign ministry official said the unfriendly act by the Czech side could not go unanswered. There has, however, been no official confirmation from either side. One of the Russians was reportedly a deputy military attaché, and Czech media say the affair is linked to plans to base a US missile defense radar in the country. For NPR News, I'm Peter Van Dyke in Moscow.
In Siberia, more than 60 workers at a big hydroelectric plant are feared dead after an explosion yesterday in the facility's engine room. Divers have been searching for the missing workers. As a result of the accident, several towns and major factories in southern Siberia are now without power. Oil prices moved up today in futures trading in New York, ending at $69.19 a barrel, up by $1.44. I'm Ann Taylor, NPR News, Washington.
Support for NPR comes from the Annie E. Casey Foundation, whose Kids Count is a state-by-state look at child well-being and the important role of data at aecf.org.
This is 89.3 FM KCUR. An accident on 35 southbound at Mission Road on the Kansas side has traffic backed up to past Cambridge Circle. Also, there is a fluid spill on 169 highway northbound at Briarcliff. This traffic report is a service of Advil PM, reminding you to yield to pedestrians in a crosswalk. Showers and thunderstorms tonight, overnight, mostly cloudy, a low of 67 degrees. Periods of showers and thunderstorms on Wednesday with rain possibly heavy at times. The high tomorrow, 83 degrees. And a little bit of sunshine by Thursday with a high near 79. The time is 5:35. It's 78 degrees in Midtown with mostly cloudy skies. From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Melissa Blah.
And I'm Robert Siegel. Hundreds of electric companies are offering the chance to buy green power. The utilities are touting energy from renewable sources, such as wind or solar. But do you know what exactly you'd be buying? For our series, How Green Is It?, NPR's Elizabeth Sjogren decided to find out.
David Bell is an architect in Washington, D.C. He's turned an old townhouse into his office with all kinds of environmentally friendly technologies, like a self-charging automatic water faucet.
It has a little turbine inside. It's a little hydroelectric plant right here.
So when an entrepreneur offered him a chance to buy clean electricity and cut his power bills, Bell signed up. But is that what he's really getting? Do you know where the power comes from that actually powers your lights and the other electrical appliances here?
No.
Is it green power?
I've been told it is, yes.
Not exactly. Turns out the electrons that power the lights and air conditioning in Bell's office still come primarily from old-fashioned coal-fired power plants. So what is the clean power that Bell and so many other consumers are being sold?
Well, it's termed green power.
I asked Gary Skulnick, the entrepreneur who sells electricity to Bell.
It doesn't mean that the actual electrons are coming from a wind farm thousands of miles directly to this particular business.
A lot of people buying clean energy think that's exactly what they're getting. And if you listen to pitches from power companies, you can't blame them.
Now, if my calculations are correct, signing up for Pure Power means I can prevent over 18,500 pounds of greenhouse gas from entering the atmosphere.
Now that is pure genius.
But listen carefully to advertisements like this one from a company called Ameren UE in St. Louis. And it's a lot more complicated.
When you enroll in Pure Power, Ameren UE purchases renewable energy certificates equal to 100% of your electric usage. That means more reliance on renewable sources such as wind power and less on fossil fuels.
Did you catch that part about renewable energy certificates? For each unit of power a wind farm sells, it can also sell a renewable energy certificate. In other words, customers aren't actually buying electricity from windmills. Their dollars are subsidizing renewable energy to encourage power companies and other businesses to build more windmills and solar plants. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency and the Energy Department promote these programs. Gary Skulnick says it's a way to replace dirty power sources with cleaner ones and fight global warming.
It's like taking a glass of water and adding green food coloring to it. You're greening up the power.
Some researchers, like Michael Gillenwater at Princeton University, think this is all a bit of a shell game.
You would think that total amount of investment they're making is all going to build new wind turbines that would not have been there anyway. And that's not true. They're causing probably a little bit of new generation and new investment.
He says the payoff is pretty small. Customers aren't cutting greenhouse gases nearly as much as they think.
If I buy 10 megawatt hours worth of green power certificates, maybe I've caused 1 extra megawatt hour to be generated because of a new wind turbine was built. But 9 of those were just there anyway because of government tax incentives and other things.
So is there any way you can go out and buy real, actual windmill-generated power?
I'm quite frustrated by the current situation.
David Wright tried to for the city of Ann Arbor, Michigan. He's on the local energy panel there that wanted to buy wind power. But there's only one utility in the area, and all it's selling is coal and nuclear power, coupled with those renewable energy certificates.
A certificate is not a renewable energy purchase. For the utility and for others to make those claims, I think it's highly misleading.
If you want to know for sure that the power you're using comes from a windmill, about the only option right now is to put one in your backyard. Elizabeth Sjogren, NPR News, Washington.
And you can find the other stories from our series, How Green Is It?, at npr.org.
On days like this, when it's 92 degrees and humid in the nation's capital, you realize 2 tough things about living and working in Washington: weathering the summer heat and rooting for the Nationals. Our local baseball team is mired in last place, and they average fewer fans at the ballpark than the Kansas City Royals.
So today, big news for the hapless Nats. They signed Steven Strasburg, the #1 overall draft pick, for $15 million. And if that investment pays off, writers like Washington Post sports columnist Tom Boswell may actually have some upbeat columns to write in a year or two. Tom Boswell, how important was it for the Nats to sign Strasburg?
Well, when the President of the United States comes to the All-Star game, goes on national TV, and makes jokes about the Nationals, you know you need help. The Nats, since they came back to Washington, have really wasted an opportunity to hold on to the interest and imagination of the fans in the district. But the team has started to turn around as this season's gone along. Ownership maybe was entirely too frugal for a couple of years, and now it seems like they're willing to spend at the level of a normal major league team, and maybe, as you say, they'll be competitive in a year or two.
$15 million is a record for signing a baseball prospect, I gather, or at least a draft, #1 draft pick. How good is Steven Strasburg?
He certainly has the raw native ability to be compared with players like Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, Tom Seaver. He also, however, can be compared to other players who had wonderful fastballs and flashy pitches like Ben McDonald or even Pete Broberg out of Dartmouth 40 years ago. In other words, everyone who has these kinds of tools does not necessarily become a star. There are issues of composure and intelligence of your arm continuing to stay strong. And some players like Sandy Koufax and Nolan Ryan and Randy Johnson become great Hall of Fame players, but it sometimes takes them 4, 5, or 6 years to learn to harness all their natural talent, their 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Strasburg has been timed up to 102 miles an hour, and he does have one of the best curveballs I've ever seen.
Why did it come down to 11:58 and 43 seconds last night, just before a midnight deadline, for the Nationals and Strasburg and his agent to come to an agreement?
The drafting system that baseball has is really a form of price fixing. It is unilaterally imposed on college students in the United States who are baseball players and on high school players who want to enter that draft. It is never negotiated in any labor management sense of the term, simply imposed by Major League Baseball. And they slot players by where they're picked and give the teams an arbitrary sense of the range in which, how much money they should pay those players. Well, I mean, how un-American can it get? And the agent for Strasburg, Scott Boras, is one of the toughest hardline agents who is always looking for a way to find something in the baseball structure that essentially is wrong and fight it. Don't want to make him appear too noble. He certainly has mercenary interests too. But the reason it came to such a pitched battle was Strasburg is an absolutely unique talent. I would say that he probably is the most hyped and visible non-professional player of the last 50 years. When players like Tom Seaver and Nolan Ryan came out